accident up there?
Yeah.
A lady. She broke her neck.
Oh my God, where is she?
Standing next to my window.
You have a secret, but you don't want to tell me.
I see dead people walking around like regular people.
I don't see anything. Are you sure they're there?
They're everywhere. They want me to do things for them.
I think that they know that you're one of these very rare people who can see them, so you need to help them.
What if they don't want to help?
I don't think that's the way it works.
How do you know for sure?
Not every gift. Is anyone there? Is a blessing. The Sixth
Hey there,
Sense.
welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary. Sixth Sense from 1999. Before I get into the Sixth Sense, I'll just give you a little insight into a first world problem that I deal with twice a week. And that is trying to select a film or films to watch with my elderly parents. And my parents are in their mid to late 80s. Now, it used to be easy. I've got a long history of watching films with my folks. We've probably since the early 80s, actually. Watched probably thousands of movies with them. I'm an only child. And back before the internet, when I grew up, you were forced to, if you wanted to watch something, you had to watch it with your parents because you only had one TV, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, we soon got into a routine where I'd basically pick the films because I was such a movie nut. And probably, I don't know, 9 times out of 10, I'd pick something that they'd like. 1 time out of 10, I'd pick something that wouldn't land for them for various reasons. I mean, that's a pretty good strike rate when you're talking about a difference of between 30 to 35 years in our ages, right? So anyway, what I have discovered, though, is that when people get into their 80s, their tastes, I think when I think about this more, I think your tastes go like this, or this is what's happened to me anyway. When you're in your teens, you're pretty definite about what you like and what you don't like. You're kind of a bit of a follower, most of us anyway. Then you get into your 20s and your 30s and you start exploring a bit more and you're keen to maybe watch different things. And then that goes on through your 40s, 50s. Like now, I'll watch really different stuff because I've seen so much mainstream stuff that if it's new mainstream films, I kind of, unless it's something really interesting, I kind of don't even bother with them or I don't stick with them. Whereas I'll go back and rewatch really good mainstream cinema from the past because I think it was done a lot better or I can relate to it or it's nostalgic, all of the above. What I've seen is that with my parents anyway, and this is probably true for most, is that when you get to your 70s and definitely your 80s, your tastes narrow again and you're not interested. Maybe you just don't have the effort or the mental capacity or curiosity anymore to kind of take a chance on a movie and watch something really provocative or really different or weird. Or because what I've found is that films that my folks used to have an open mind about, and they really had an open mind, especially for their background and just where they sat in society. They weren't artists, for example. They were just run-of-the-mill, normal people like me. They really had an open mind about watching things, and they certainly didn't judge things or get freaked out by nudity or experimental filmmaking. Look, they had their limits. Extremely violent things or sexual like rape films or extended rape scenes, and I'm with them on that. Like, I don't enjoy that either. Death Wish 2 is a good example of that. That's got a pretty nasty rape scene at the start of it. Or is it Death Wish 1? I'd have to check. Anyway, that was an example of something that made us all uncomfortable. But yeah, for the most part, they kept an open mind, and I'd put anything on, foreign films, big budget films. They pretty much watch anything, comedies, my dad in particular. But now I find if I put anything on that isn't kind of A-list kind of elite Hollywood cinema, like with, Robert De Niro or Al Pacino, or, I'm talking top shelf kind of conventional cinema that's done really well and has a linear structure. They like that, but anything left or right of that, they kind of struggle with, and they'll say, at the end, I'll say, hey, did you like that? And they'll go, it was different. When my folks say that something is different, that means that sucked. Didn't like that. But they're too nice and polite still, even with me, to say, hey, I didn't like that, or that didn't work. I can get that out of them if I have a conversation with them about the film, but I think they realise how difficult it is for me to pick a movie now, so they go easy on me, which is nice. But the reason why I'm talking about this is that on consecutive weekends we've watched M. Night Shyamalan films, and the thinking behind that was that I can remember with this film, The Sixth Sense, I can remember watching this with my folks a couple of times when it came out. And they loved it. They really loved it. I'm not sure if they'd seen Unbreakable, which is the film I saw last week. I watched them the other way around. I'm not sure why. And we watched Unbreakable last week. And like I said in the pod for that, I really loved it. And I think I like that film even better now than previously. I can appreciate more about that film than just the story. And we finished watching Unbreakable last week, and they just said, that was different. And I go, okay. So you didn't like it. Why didn't you like it? And they just couldn't work out what it was about, or what's the point of it, or things like that. Whereas back in the day, I think they would have appreciated it. So we got to last night, and I thought, okay, I said, do you remember The Sixth Sense? Because that's the first thing. I thought, I'm not going to put this on if they remember the reveal at the end, because for them in their current state, I thought, if they know that, they're going to be bored. Anyway, they completely forgotten what this film's about. That's another thing I'm learning. They forget everything. So put this on, and we got to the end, and again, same sort of thing. A bit of a warmer reception for this one, actually, than Unbreakable. But they didn't understand what had happened. They didn't realise the reveal. The reveal just went straight over their heads, and they thought, yeah, that was a good movie. Didn't really understand what happened, but yeah, it was good. And so I had to step them through it. And probably doesn't help my mum falls asleep for 50 or 60% of them each movie. But anyway, so that's the challenge for me, and probably for some of you who try and find a film to watch with elderlies, it's bloody hard. And it takes me ages, actually, some days. Some days I'll think, yeah, okay, we'll watch this. I'll think ahead of time to try and be strategic. They'll come over, we'll have dinner, and then we'll sit down, and I'll put it on, and could be in the first minute of a film, and I'll think, no, what was I thinking? Of course they won't like this. It's too violent. Or I'll remember there's a scene in it, and I'll think, yeah, that's going to be a problem. Or, actually, this film isn't linear in structure. Or, I'll think of a reason, and then I'll quickly switch it off and, jump to something that I know they'll like, that we've seen 20 times together. So I told you this was a first world problem, right? This sounds like a bit of a whinge. It's not. It's just trying to set the scene. But anyway, Sixth Sense went over a bit better with them, which is a good sign. For me, my history with this film is I saw it at the movies, at the cinema back in 99. It was a big deal then. And it was a big deal because it was a debut film by Shyamalan, and there was word of mouth that you just go and see this. And you'd have the conversation and you'd say, why? And they'd say, just go and see it. And I'm thinking, Okay, it's Bruce Willis. I like Bruce Willis, but, you know, do I like him enough to go and pay my hard-earned at the movies? They said, just go and watch it. And in those days, in the reviews were all in print. Of course, this is 99 before the internet. The internet existed, to be clear, but none of us had the internet. And if we did, it was dial-up. And no one used it for this reason. You still actually watch the movie show on SBS for your movie sort of reviews, or you read them in the print media, or your buddies saw it and they told you about it. But this one, of course, I think would be a hard film to make now, because it does rely to an extent on the reveal at the end, much more than other films do. So I think it would be a struggle to watch this now, or to get funding to make this. So that's a shame. That's a shame that audiences don't get to see films like this as much, or like The Crying Game, for example, which relies on a reveal at the end, or Usual Suspects, or certain other films. I mean, this isn't a new problem. You know, like Psycho has the big reveal at the end. I think what I'm trying to get around to saying is that some films, it doesn't matter. Some films are so good, and they've got other elements to them, whether it's performances or the style, or other things you can appreciate except for the twist. And some films you watch it one time and then you find, oh wow, that was shocking, or that was intriguing. But once you know it, you're done. There's not much more to it. The film's like all set up for the reveal at the end. And so it was a big deal, I remember back then, if someone actually was a blabbermouth or hated you, they would tell you the ending to this. And I'm sure I can remember even watching other films or skits on comedy shows where people are waiting to, might have been Empire Strikes Back or something, where people were waiting in line to watch Empire Strikes Back, and the people that had just finished their session were walking past, and they were saying something like, oh, you know, Vader's Luke's father. And just watching these people just slump and then just not even bother watching the film for some. I mean, the diehards probably wouldn't have mattered. So anyway, I'm only talking about that because this film is one of the films, I think, that gets referenced for the twist at the end. But yeah, I think this film, I watched this film a few times back in the day, even after knowing what the twist was. So that tells you what my relationship has been with this. I haven't seen this film for a long time. Probably, I don't know, 15 years at least, maybe longer. But I remember watching it quite a few times in the early 2000s, just because it was really good, and I liked a lot of things about the film apart from the twist, and I still enjoyed the anticipation of waiting for the twist. It's weird, isn't it? Anyway, the film is about a child psychologist called Malcolm Crowe. That's the Bruce Willis character. And he's struggling professionally and emotionally after failing to help a disturbed former patient, who happens to be Donnie Wahlberg, of all people, in a shattering, short, brief performance at the start of the film. It's hard to recognize him, actually, and yeah, it's intense. Anyway, he gets Donnie Wahlberg's character blames Malcolm Crowe, the Bruce Willis character, for letting him down when he was a child, and he comes back, and there's a really intense scene at the start of this film. I'll try not to ruin the plot for this one for anyone out there who hasn't seen it, and honestly, I don't know whether anyone listens to this for a start, and if they do, whether they're young enough to not know about this film. But hey, let's just be positive and assume that someone out there doesn't know, right? There is a twist at the end. So anyway, this is about a child psychologist. Yeah, and he starts working with a young boy named Cole Sear. This is the Haley Joel Osment character. who is going through some really tough times. His father has left or died. I didn't quite catch that part, I have to admit. He's a really intelligent little kid. He's probably, I don't know, 9 or 10. He's isolated, frightened. He's got no friends. The guys his own age beat him up, and he's had some problems at school because he can't seem to be like the other kids. He can't seem to fit in, and when he does things, he really stands out. So an example is he draws these pictures at school, and the other kids are drawing happy scenes, and he's drawing scenes of unhappy things, people dying or what have you. There's a reason for that. There's a good reason for that, which I won't reveal. But he's a kid with some emotional and possibly psychological problems. So Bruce Willis is there and listens to him, treats him like an adult, and this really close relationship forms between the two. And as time goes by, a lot of things happen, and another critical piece of the puzzle is Cole's mother, played by Toni Collette, the Australian actress, in probably her first big Hollywood role. And she's trying to deal with having this precocious son who's obviously intelligent but has some serious emotional issues that are really impacting her as well. And she's trying to understand him. She's trying to remain calm. But at times, he won't confess to stealing things from her, or, she's working 2 jobs to try and pay the rent and pay the bills. And he's only sort of making life hard for her. So what begins as this quiet psychological drama slowly shifts into something much darker as Malcolm tries to understand what Cole is experiencing, while also trying to repair the guilt that he carried from his earlier failure with the Donnie Wahlberg character. And his relationship with his wife, played by Olivia Wilde, is falling apart as well. So there's a lot of things happening here. The film takes a shift towards a more horror element, probably midway through. And of course, the film builds towards one of the most famous reveals in modern cinema. What worked for me in this film are lots of things. Again, I covered a lot of this in the Unbreakable pod, but Shyamalan is just a really original filmmaker. This is his first film, and he wrote, like his other ones, he wrote it and directed it, and had a cameo, really Hitchcockian there. But the script is amazing. It's so inventive and unique, and I thought anyway. And also I like how effortlessly the film shifts tone, and ramps things up out of the blue. And it's not jarring, you just go with it. Everything about this film sort of fits into place, and it's really well planned and well executed. Like I said, it starts as a straight drama who's a psychologist trying to help a troubled child while trying to redeem himself. And then it goes into this horror phase, and the tension really builds, and there's some jump scares, and the whole film changes shape. But that tonal balancing act is really difficult to execute, especially first time out. Like, how good's this guy? He does it brilliantly. And then you watch it again, like me, for the 4th or 5th time, already knowing the ending, and I'm now watching it through the lens of, okay, I know what happens at the end, and so I'm watching it. I'm looking for little telltale signs. This is what you do, right? When you know the ending to a film and you know the reveal, you try and see if there are any clues that you could have seen the first time, or what doesn't make sense, or does this work still? This one works for me. And I probably can't go into it too much more without ruining it, but it's a incredible first effort out for Shyamalan. The performances of the three main leads are extraordinary. I'll start with Haley Joel Osment. I'm not sure I've seen a better child performance in a film. He's stretched a few times. He's completely natural. Nothing feels forced. To me, every emotional beat works. He's asked to do some quite demanding things in terms of being I feel like he's an intelligent kid in real life, or he was. He must be like, I don't know, 35 or close to 40 now. Intelligent kid, you can tell that. He doesn't seem to be reading from, he's not reading from Cuca. Like he's just acting. He's just like the kid would be. Nothing feels forced, like I already said. And he's asked to cry and make it convincing and show guilt and show hesitation in answering questions, because there's some issues with this kid where he gets asked some direct questions from his mum and from his psychologist and at the school. Whatever he answers is going to put him into trouble, just different kinds of trouble. And you can see him grappling with it. You can see him trying to deal with this big issue that he's got, that he eventually reveals to both his psychologist and his mother. And he went on to have a real run. He was in AI, the Spielberg film that Stanley Kubrick was meant to do. He was in that. He was in another couple, and then he kind of maxed out. He kind of aged out, I suppose. I think he was in some other things. I don't recall seeing him in other things, but look, would it matter? He's always going to be this kid. He's the Sixth Sense kid. He won, I think he won the Oscar for this, for Best Supporting. Don't quote me on that. I don't look these things up, but I remember he was in the conversation at least. Then there's Toni Collette, who was known to me from things like Muriel's Wedding, which is an Australian film in the mid-90s, which she was great in. And then she popped up in this, and I thought, Toni Collette, okay, interesting. I'm not sure how she got this role, but she smashes it. She is incredible. She's the emotional center of the entire film, more so than Haley Joel. I thought she brings normality and grounds the film, warmth. You can tell she's just a normal woman who's been through some stuff, and now her son's giving her all this grief, but she loves him so much, and she's trying not to show anger or frustration, and sometimes she does, and she feels guilty. Can relate to all that as a parent. I remember doing that as soon as you explode at your kid, and she shows all the exhaustion and concern. It's written all over her face. It's such a great performance. And she's gone on to be in lots of things and shown an incredible range. What did I see her in? Oh, Hereditary. Some touchstones to this film, I guess. And she was fantastic in that too. She's really gone on to have a great career, and I can see why. When you see her in this, when she was a lot younger, two scenes really stood out for me, and they both involve Toni Collette and Haley Joel Osment. There's a earlier scene in the film when they're at the dinner table. She asks him some hard questions about did you move this jewelry? And this is where you see him pondering, do I say yes or do I say no? And he says, no, it wasn't me. And from her perspective, it's obviously him. And she really loses her shit and makes him leave the table. And then you can see her feeling bad straight away. So she's a normal person. I could relate to that. It's a great part. A great scene. They both act well. There's another scene later in the car that was in the trailer at the start of this pod. And she breaks down in that scene for obvious reasons when you watch that scene, and it's so natural. She just brings this emotional content that so many mothers would bring to this situation. It still got me. I could feel something welling in my eyes in that scene in particular. All right, Bruce Willis. I'm probably just going to repeat myself from the Unbreakable pod, but this just rammed it home to me that I really didn't appreciate Bruce at the time. I kind of saw his cool guy persona and the smirk and the, he did a lot of action films and he was the Die Hard guy and the Pulp Fiction guy. Geez, he's good in these films with an emotional undercurrent. And one of the best actors I've seen with kids. He must have been a really good father, I reckon, in terms of relating to his kids. He just knows how to deal with kids. He knows how to talk to them. He's not patronizing, same as in Unbreakable. And he gets these great performances. I think the performance from Haley Joel and the kid in Unbreakable, I want to say that they wouldn't have been half as good with a different actor who can't relate to people and kids like Bruce Willis. He just must have been so cool for these kids, I think, to act with him. He just brings warmth, right? He brings warmth, and his eyes show so much that I just missed when I was young. I didn't get it. I can see tears welling up in his eyes quite a few times when he's trying so desperately to help this kid, and he can't. He brings a lot of sensitivity to these roles, which is probably not the first thing that most people think about with Bruce Willis. They think about the moonlighting character. They think about the die-hard, wisecracking character. These characters in these films are the polar opposites of that. So well done. Well done again, Bruce. I really didn't appreciate you when you were at the top of your game. So this one really landed well with me this time, and this time I was able to step back completely from the story and just watch the performances and feel the emotions that the film was pumping out in those particular scenes. And it got to me. It really, really soaked in, and I really enjoyed it. And it's quite sad in parts, and the reveals are still revealing. That's crazy. I know what's going to happen. So that shows you true craftsmanship in the writing, the confidence of the direction, the superb performances that Shyamalan gets out of these people, and credit to all involved. And I just like I said, for the reasons where we're in the information age now, where you know everything about films, and the trailers tell you just about everything as well. I just worry that films like this can't be made, or if they are, you just got to go and see them on the first weekend that they're out at the movies. Otherwise, or when they hit the streamers, if they're direct to streamers. So yeah, it's a rare film where the reveal isn't the main reason the film works. Astonishing introduction to M. Night Shyamalan, and it's made me want to go back and revisit some of his other ones, particularly Signs, because I didn't give that. I think Signs fell into my not taking enough notice category of some films. It was a one and done. I think it was built up in my mind because of the success of The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. So I should have a look at that. And see if I have a different assessment. That's what I enjoy about the rewatches. It either affirms things and deepens my affection for these old films. Tells you something about me. Or I get a completely different take and it doesn't land. So anyway, that's enough from me about The Sixth Sense. If you've seen it, check it out again. Even if you know the reveal, I dare you to. I think you'll find something interesting in the performances and the tone of the film. If you haven't seen it, do not look it up. Do not talk to anyone about it. Just go and see it. It's on Disney at the moment. That's where I saw it. That's the easiest way to see it. And settle in and really, really absorb it, and maybe watch it again a week later and watch it in a different way, because that's the cool thing about films and films like this. All right, that's me done for The Sixth Sense. Thank you to anybody who happens to be listening, and see you next time.